guys, what's going on? What's happening? Yes, welcome to the live stream. Okay, we are doing a stream and we're going to talk about, well, playing through the changes, right? Guys, right, they get confused about how do you play through chord changes, okay? And this is something that I get a lot with students who come in for lessons and stuff, and they're like, man, I'm having issues, I'd like to learn how to play through the changes, and all I know how to do is like stuff with scale, maybe the pentatonic scale, things like that, which is, you know, the pentatonic scale, right, is our friend. And we use the scale, but if we want to put a little more sophistication into what we're saying, right, we want to start thinking about how to use chord tones, okay, not just scales. Scales are important. They're really equally as important as the chords, but chords are important too. And I'm going to show you some quick and easy ways to start pulling in how to think and how to use the chord tones, right, in your blues and blues rock solos and how to do this. Okay, so let's pick a key first, okay? Well, I'm thinking key of A today. For some reason, the key of A just seems to be like the place to be. So we're going to be in the key of A, and we're going to look at a real straight up 12-bar blues structure, okay? So in simplest chord terms, we're looking at A chords, A, and it's major in this case, so A major, D major, and E major chords. It's a 1, 4, 5 progression, okay? And we need to be familiar with how to make a chord. Okay, and here's the real simple, quick, easy rule. 1, 3, 5. Okay, now it's a 1, 4, 5 progression, not to be confused with that. The chord, how you build a major chord, and any chord really starts with a root, a third, and a fifth. Okay, so 1, 3, 5. Major chords are major thirds, minor chords are minor thirds, but we're just sticking to a major progression, so all the thirds are major. So, well, there's an easy way to do it if you're not used to thinking about this kind of thing. You know, just think, you could do it right on your hand too. You could do it the Cro-Magnon way. I've done this many times, okay? Real easy. Just think, use your fingers if you need to have a visual, but A is number 1, and I'm using my thumb for that, right? So what's going to be your A chord, right? It's going to be A, B would be the second, go past that, C, right? A, B, C. Oh, so there's got to be a C in there, and in the key of A, it's C sharp, but there's a C, right? Then you go, next is the 4D, and then, oh, what's 5, right? E. So A, C sharp, E, right? Okay, that's the easy way to figure it out and know what these types of things are, but also, there's another way that is even easier than that, okay? And that's the one we're going to focus on, where we use our fretboard and the guitar to actually help us see it, okay? Because all the scales and all the chords you know are shapes, right? And what do? We move these shapes around. So you want to be able to see the pictures in your mind. And I'm going to show you how to do this really easy and pull the stuff in using chord forms you know, okay? So let me do a little bit of playing, and then I'll tell you a little bit about what I was doing, and I'll show you how to start seeing these chord shapes, and I'll deviate a little into some color chords too, which are chords that you probably know, like 7 chords and things like that, okay? And I'll start real slow and just build up to the awesomeness, all right, and show you all this stuff. But here we go. Progression is 12 bar. Playing this like a lot of old school kind of jazz guys might play it, or shuffle, right? using some 7 chords and some 9 chords, okay? And here's some soloing over the changes, right? Okay, so what you probably were able to hear is that I go into these guitar solos. I don't even have anybody accompanying me, right? But you can kind of hear where the changes were coming in, right? Because the chord tones that I'm pulling into the scale stuff that I'm doing, right, are chord tones. And I'm paying attention where the changes are going to be, and in a 12 bar, you know, basic, pretty basic, how we go through those changes. Most of you, I'm sure, are probably familiar with the 12 bar 1-4-5 structure. So I'm assuming you are anyway, and if you're not, well, I'm going to be doing more live streams about how to figure all this stuff out anyway, but right now let's just stick to these chord changes, how to solo through these changes. Okay, first chord is an A major chord in its simplest terms. So look at the big old A major chord, you know, right? Let's look at some bar chord shapes, okay? Because this will help a lot, all right? We all probably are hip to this major bar chord right here. It has a root note on the low E string, right? It's a big old 6-string bar chord, which is basically an E form. So for all you guys that are familiar with the cage thing, right? If you know, has that E shape, right? We're just moving an E chord around, but we're up here at the 5th fret. So that E shape right there, okay, it's an A major chord in this instance. So let's break our chord down into little tidbits of morsels of cool understanding this, right? How can we break this up into small little chord clusters, right? Okay, it's not that hard. Just take it in blocks of, or little groups of 3 strings, and just look at your chord shape, okay? So in this, we'll start at the top and we'll work our way down to the bottom of the chord, okay? Okay, look at the top 3 notes, right? Okay, I'm going to get a little closer, all right, so you can see this better. But we have basically the top part of the chord. Don't even worry about the note names. It's not necessary. If anybody told you that was necessary to do this, it's not necessary. You don't have to know the note names, but you need to be able to see the shapes. That you do need to know. So use what you know. And this is a very straight up shape that most cats know. So, okay, here's the top, these 3 notes. Okay? The second little cluster of awesomeness here is going to be now the next set of lower strings. Just go down just 1 string at a time. So now this was at the high E, right? B string and G string for the first one. Now we're looking at the B string, the G string, and the D string, right? Just all off of this big A major chord that most cats know, right? Okay? All right, now let's go to the next set of 3 strings, going lower down in this, just in this 1 chord shape. Right, it's this E chord shape, right? Okay, let's go now to the next 3 strings. Here's your 5 chord, right? The power 5, right? Okay. But there you go. Now, all of these notes, right? All of these notes are all very easy to get to from the minor pentatonic scale, right? That scale right there. right, so how do you start, right? Very easily, we'll just focus on this A chord right now. How do you pull in some of that chord, the melody, the melodic interpretation of the harmonic structure, right? The chord, which is a harmonic thing if you play it this way. Or even any three notes at a time, really. It's harmonic in this case, right? But it's melodic when we play it in note fashion or arpeggios, right? That's melodic. So we want to melodically pull these chord tones in. So, okay, well, how about start with a stock lick that you probably might know, right? Like a bend on the G string, a good old whole step bend, right? Ah. Well, I'm bending on this G string at the 7th, right? Going to a chord tone, right? It's part of the A chord right here. It's an A note. Okay, going to that note of the minor pentatonic scale right here, that minor third is what that happens to be, by the way, on the 5th fret of your G string, right? But what we do is just half step our way right into chord tone, right? And then end again on this other chord tone right here, which also is shared in the minor pentatonic scale. It's the 5th right here. Okay, but we don't want to get too geeked out. Just look at the shapes. Okay, so there's an idea, right, that's pulling this in. Okay, what else can we do with this A chord, right? Right? Again, I'm doing all these ideas by just mostly really looking at two shapes in this case. The three top strings, the high E, the B, and the G string shape. That little triad right there, which is just a piece of the big old bar chord. And then these notes right here, again, which are, you know, the B string, the G string, and the D string, which is, again, are just a piece of the big old bar chord, right? Right? All these ideas are coming off of looking at this shape and that shape in tandem with the minor pentatonic scale in this right now with what I'm doing. Okay, then I walked down the line a bit, right? Okay, pretty much going down the chord, picking a note out of the minor pentatonic scale in this case, right? Going here to the 5th of the, well, another note in the A major chord, right? But then going to this 3rd right here in the bottom. So again, it's another chord tone actually. Remember, we have 1, 3, 5, right, with chords. A root, a 3rd, and a 5th. And in the minor pentatonic scale, we have a minor 3rd, but with the major chord, we have the major 3rd. So that C sharp right here, or this 4th fret note of the D string, there's the major 3rd of an A chord. Granted, it's not in this big shape right here, but when you look at, if you think about caged, a lot of guys are getting hip to this caged thing, which I never used, by the way. I came to the same conclusions in a different way, but it doesn't matter. It's still off of all the same chord shapes, but it's all the same stuff as caged. But if you look at your G shape, right? A G chord, if it's a G chord down here, but if you move it up here to the 5th like this and you put that bar back there at the 2nd, well, you have an A major chord, but it's the G shape. So that's where this major 3rd's coming from that G chord shape. But it's close enough to be able to pull it in, so I went for it because I know it lives there. All right? But it's off that shape. All right, so let's get back to these other two high position shapes. Okay, so off of the A chord and anywhere that I'm on this A chord, okay, I can utilize any of those chord tones that are right here, literally at my fingertips in the minor pentatonic scale in this position. Okay, so now we're going to come around, right? We have the 4 chord, right, which is going to be a D major chord of some kind. In its simplest form, it's just a D major with a root, again, a root, a third, and a fifth. And well, okay, why don't we just take a look at the big old bar chord that a lot of folks would probably know, this bar chord, right? It's an A string root note, okay, and it's a D major chord, okay? All right. Well, you want to see the shape of this chord, right? You got your root note. You could even go down to the low E2 at the 5th fret because that's part of the chord too. I'll just do it across every string, right? Put the bar across everything. But these are all chord tones, and they live between here on the 5th fret and on the 7th fret. But the root is at the 5th of the A string. Then you have this 5th of the chord, which lives at the 7th fret of your D string. You have a root note here, another D chord note, the root note at the 7th fret of your G string. Then you happen to have a third, it's just a third, that lives here on the B string at the 7th. And then you have a 5th up at the top on the 5th fret of the high E. So, okay. And again, with Cage, this is coming out of your A shape, right? You know, the A chord we all know down here. Well, how do you use that as a movable chord? Well, you have to, right, put a bar 2 frets and back and start moving that shape up. But when you do it up here, right, D root note on the 5th fret of the A string. Okay, it's an A shape, but it's a D major chord here in this spot on the fretboard. So we're using that A shape, right? And again, we're in A minor pentatonic, and all those notes are easily, readily available to us right at our fingertips, right here out of this 5th position, first basic, really minor pentatonic box shape, okay? So that scale right there, that lives right here, and these notes, so the whole chord is basically living inside the shape with the exception of this major third for the D, which is here at the 7th fret of the B string instead of being, you know, then you have your minor pentatonic note here at the 8th fret of the B string, in A minor pentatonic. So, okay, so you're on your 4 change, right? Even though I'm playing a 9 chord here, or maybe the cats you're jamming out with, or people in a band you might be rocking out with, right, or an open mic somewhere or something, might be playing a 9 chord maybe. It's okay, because if you play the D major chord, you're still in. You could use these notes to help your solo and play through the changes, right? Right? Just thinking minor pentatonic predominantly with some choice selected, just think about chord tones, and in particular this note right here on the D chord. That's an important note if I'm on the D chord. I could use pretty much any other pentatonic scale note I want to, but I want to be hip to being able to pull this third into my line to outline a D chord, right? And think about those other chord tones, but it's all off the shape, and it's a simple shape. It's not an involved chord, crazy color chord or designer chord shape that we're talking about. It's just a really basic chord shape. So, again, lives right here. It's a triad. You could even just think of that, those 3 middle strings here at the 7th fret of the D string, the G string, and the B string. Just seeing that alone, when you're doing anything with your minor pentatonic scale, see, you can outline the chord. Really simple, really easy, right? If you're familiar with the other positions of your pentatonic scale, even better, because then you can start connecting D chord shapes in other spots of your minor pentatonic scale across the fretboard. I don't want to get too involved. I want to keep it pretty simple on the stream for today. but it is doable to using a lot of these same chord shapes over, and if you know where they live, that's the goal, to kind of find out where those shapes live on the fretboard. You know, we were looking at the A chord notes before, right? Here at the 5th, off the 5th fret. Well, for a D chord, they just would simply live right up here at the 10th fret. And of course, minor pentatonic. You know, your A minor pentatonic scale, 3rd position in this case, where I went to, lives right where that D chord is. Big old bar chord right here at the 10th fret. So when you go to that D chord change, if you wanted to move your way up the fretboard, see what I'm saying? Right? All right, so maybe hear what I'm saying, but I want you to be able to see it too. There's your 3rd position, A minor pentatonic scale. And there's that big old bar chord, the E shape, up at the 10th fret, where you could do all the same things. You want to outline your D chord on the D chord sections of your 12 bar, where you go to that 4 chord in this case, right? And get a little bit of that, you know, add that spice into the melodic information of the D chord itself. Okay, so now we have one more chord still, right? We have a 5 chord in our blues, right? You know, we're going to have an E major chord of some kind, right? And a 12 bar in the key of A major. So a lot of guys will play this 9 chord, or maybe a 7, or even a sharp 9. Okay, and again, it really just comes down to, we want to be able to see chord tones, but we'll keep it simple with an E major triad. Okay, so we're going to look at the same chord that we looked at the bar chord for the D at the 5th. We'll just move it up 2 frets. Okay, so they have your root note here, you know, at the 7th fret of the D string, and you have that A major triad in the middle on the, you know, the 9th fret of the D, the G, and the B strings. And then you have that 5th up at the top on the 7th fret of your high E. But again, right, all around, basically your pentatonic scale here in A. A lot of guys refer to this position, right, your BB box, right? But there's your 2nd position. A lot of guys, right? We snake up to that on the G string off of the 1st position. And a lot of them will hang around up here on these top 3 strings, right? Okay, well, there's your E chord. Right? Just take that triad, see the shape. It's really as simple as that, man. See the chord shape. Right? Okay? And pull those notes that are, again, right there at your fingertips. Start to pull that stuff into your playing easily. So obviously having a grasp on your scale positions is important, right? But being able to see the chord shapes and knowing what chords you're playing at the right time of the progression is equally important. Okay, so in a nutshell, these are the building blocks, right, of being able to play through chord changes. Now, of course, we don't have to limit it only to major or minor chord shapes, and in this case we're just looking at major chords, right? But, well, let's take a little bit of a step into a little bit more of like your color chord area for a brief little, visit, all right? What if we wanted to add some color chords and like maybe like a 13 chord, right? Like an A13, okay, which is just putting a sixth into your chord somewhere. It's A. We're adding a fourth note, all right, a little bit of geekery, okay, a little bit of theory geekery for guitar players. It's good to have some geekery skills, basic stuff. But again, it's really just seeing shapes, though, and I'll tell you what I mean by that, okay. But it's really easy to find where to put like a 13, or which is just a sixth, okay. It's a sixth in disguise. All 13 chords are. They're sixths, 13s in disguise. Okay, so, well, you have to find, you need to be a little familiar with your major scale. Okay, a little bit of geekery. Major scale, right? No, it's not a minor pentatonic scale. I know it's a major scale. But that is an A major scale that I'm playing. And, well, how did I find my geek-naciousness of the 13 thing, right, which is just a sixth? How do you geek-naciously do that without kind of being too geeky? Well, it's not hard. Just think about your scale and think of the tones. Again, you don't have to think of the note names. Just think about the number. 1 being the root note, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Remember, 8 is just like the 13 is a 6 in disguise. Well, an 8 is just a 1 in disguise because it's a root note. So I never think of it as 8, I just think of it as 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, right? Okay. Well, on this big old bar chord here, this A major chord, I want to put a 13 chord. I want to easily think about a 13. Well, I can do it off of this big old bar chord. Okay, that was an A13 chord. Why? Because I took a sixth and I plopped it into the top register of the chord. Okay, because here's my root note, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, okay. I have just achieved A13, right? So by throwing a sixth into the top part of the chord, I didn't change anything else. I just put that one note in there. So it's a root, a third, a fifth, and a sixth in this case, or 13. So, well, you could outline that pretty easily if you're using a 13 chord. You start getting good at seeing these chords. You know that, oh, it's just a big old bar chord with my pinky here at the 7th fret, right? On that B string. You can get that 13 flavor. Right? It's right there. And when I'm thinking about that, I'm just thinking about the chord shape and my minor pentatonic scale, and how can I lead into or just pull them in, pull those notes into my line, into my melodic set sentence, whatever I'm saying, melodically with notes, right? Right? That's simple, really. It really is. When you get used to seeing this, it's not that hard. Okay, and and we'll take one more chord, like another, like we'll say at this more advanced shape, like the 9 chord, right? Okay. Everybody usually gets pretty hip to this 9 voicing eventually in their playing, right? Which is simply just a bar on the top 3 strings here, in this case at the 5th fret. I'm using my ring finger, right? I'm nailing a major 3rd with my 1st finger right here at the 4th fret of the D string, and then the root note on the 5th fret of the A string. So this is basically it's a D9 chord, which is part of the dominant 7 family, but again, I don't want to get too geeked out, but 9 chords are generally dominant 7 chords. Mostly. So, but again, this shape, right? Well, if I'm in my minor pentatonic, we're in the key of A, we're in this 12 bar. It's easy to play. I got three notes right here that are in the minor pentatonic scale. It's this bar right here at the 5th fret of the high E, the G, and the B strings. They're all in my minor pentatonic scale. They're all there. So there's the top part of this D9 chord. The only one that's outside, right, is this 3rd right here. It's just 1 fret below the 7 right here, the dominant 7 of this minor pentatonic scale, which 5th fret of the D string, but we're at the 4th fret for the major 3rd of this 9 chord, which you just want to be able to picture it in your head. See the shape. Like, remember transparencies in school when we were going to school and they put stuff on the transparency projector and you could see the big thing on the wall, right? Just think of this as a transparency. Start seeing the transparency of these chord shapes on your fretboard. Your fretboard is just a big old screen, and all these things are just overlaid on the transparency that are shining down here on this screen, which is your fretboard. And if you see the picture, you can find the notes real fast without having to know any theoretical, what's the note name, any of that. Just see the picture. This is important, and this is pretty powerful, because it's not hard to do once you start getting used to it. It gets easier and easier the more you do it. Okay? Okay, everything is a minor pentatonic chord tone. Right? 5th fret of this A string and the 5th fret of the G, the B, and the high E are all in the minor pentatonic scale right here. The only one that's outside, right, is that one tone. 4th fret of the D string right there. Just kind of arpeggiating my way through that chord in some way, shape, or form, paying attention to the shape of the chord if I'm on the D chord in the 12 bar, on that 4 chord change. So, like the first 2 measures of a blues, right? A lot of times you get that quick change, right? And a lot of guys, if it's a swing type of blues or a shuffle, kind of play that 9 chord right there. Okay. Well, you can outline that change pretty easily. Right? I started a major chord. Right? And I went to those 3 notes of the high E, the B, and the G string here at the 5th. Alright? There's a lot of coolness that happens if you go to the major 3rd right here too, because it's an outside kind of exotic sound to the minor pentatonic scale. But just doing something as simple as that outlines enough, anyway, of this chord to give you the change. So you're playing through that D chord change. Then you're back on your A chord. And then I did pull another shape in for the A chord that we didn't talk about before, but it's, again, if you're familiar with caged in any way, this should be somewhat familiar for you. It's just a D shape. Right, with the A root note here, 10th fret of your B string. But I used that shape. So there's the D here, but it's also C here. C, D, both almost the same thing, real. Alright, I just went from an A back to D again, and thinking about that 9-chord shape. And using that third of the chord, which is exotic to the minor pentatonic here. So hopefully this should help you and get the idea of pulling in these chord tones. Okay, so what you want to do is to really just break down in simplest terms your major chords. In this case, just look at two very major chord shapes, which is basically this A bar chord, which is coming off of the E form, you know, so it's the E chord shape, and then the A shape for both the A, down here if you're down there, but we're using the E shape up here for that, and this position of our progression, we're doing it up here. But you have that A shape for the D chord and for the E chord. So okay, so there you have it. Simple shapes, how you overlay them. Just think of your fretboard as like, you know, just think of it like the screen or the wall when you had the transparencies in school, when they would put all those transparencies on and show the whole class, hey, check this out, now here's this transparency, boom, and it's up on the wall. Think about your chords on your fretboard in that fashion and see them as transparencies over the scale shapes that, you know, like this minor pentatonic scale right here, right? And you will find that pulling in these chord tones, which is really the nuts and bolts, the brass tacks of playing through chord changes, is being able to utilize chord tones in your guitar solos. Starts getting a lot easier because there's really nothing that you need to reinvent here. There's nothing that you have to freak out and try and cram and learn and all this crazy new information kind of thing that's going to overload your brain and then it explodes. It's like it's not going to happen if you keep it simple, right? And think about shapes that you know. So those are shapes that most cats know pretty early on with their guitar playing. Of course, this goes a lot further. This is kind of just scratching the surface of it to keep it as simple as this, but you can get a lot deeper. It's just like, it's like going out in the ocean, right? You know, the further out you go, you know, the deeper it gets. But that's not something to be freaked out about. It's just how much more awesome things can get, which is good. And it's not that hard though. It really isn't that hard. Keep it simple and things go a long way. So remember, you know, if you dig my videos, you know, a little bit of a shout out to the channel here. You know, like, share, subscribe, share with friends, but subscribe to the channel to stay notified of when I do live streams like this, right? And whenever I throw out new videos, because I'm always posting new videos weekly, right? To help everybody out here. I want to say thank you. Thank you to all of my subscribers out here who have come in and shown their support and who dig my videos. I'm happy that you're here. This is what it's all about, is to share the information, right? And pass it on to you guys, okay? And gals, right? To all of you, all right? If you'd like to support the channel in some way, shape, or form, help show some support, you can get lesson packages. I do have links to lesson instructional video packages that I've made that will help you get your lead guitar chops up. You know, you get chops rocking for blues and electric blues and rock stuff, right? I've got those. Feel free to check them out. It goes a long way in, one, helping you get your chops up, but two, helps me keep bringing the content out here. Also, I do Skype style instruction on the computer, so it's lessons between me and you on your computer that will help, well, focused on what you want to do with your guitar playing to help you reach your goals faster. Because it's good to have that light out there, you know, in the darkness. It's nice to have somebody showing you the way. It does help. But of course, stick around on the channel. There's lots more to come. Okay? thanks for being here today. And if you like to see any other streams about anything in particular, throw your comments down there in the comments, because I read the comments. And so if you have anything that you'd like to see done on the channel, maybe a lesson on something in particular, that just put it in there. All right, I'll see it, and maybe we'll do a stream on that. But you will see me again for more stuff like this in the very near future. Okay, thanks for being here. Rock and roll.